Warning, this episode of Dude You Haven't Played This Game discusses potential story spoilers for Metroid Other M. You have been warned. Watch at your own risk.
Hello? Alright, what's going on here? Well, we're just gonna keep repeating the baby over and over and over again? What, like I haven't heard that the entire game?
Over here.
You called, Kasumi?
Hey, you wanna stop oogling the dead or alive chick for a minute? It's me who's talking here. You know, Samus Aran, the one and only.
But she kicks high.
Yeah, well, I blast low, so get your mind out of the gutter for once. So, I see you finally decide to play through Metroid Other M, huh?
Yeah, what of it?
Man, everybody hates that game.
I know, but honestly, it's not as bad as people think it is.
Wait, what?
You heard me.
But wait, that's unheard of. Somebody actually enjoys Other M?
Well, yeah, there's a lot it does right, but there's also a lot that it does wrong.
Prove it.
Metroid Other M has quickly become the black sheep in the Metroid franchise. However, you may want to take a second look at a game that has been wrongly scrutinized for years as being bad for all the wrong reasons. While most people dislike the direction the franchise's lead character Samus Aran takes personality-wise, there's more problems with the broken perspective shifts, first-person frustrations, and power-up methods. To understand the game better, we'll need to go back and cover a bit of history first, as this will require a bit of explanation. Originally, Metroid's main character Samus Aran was alluded to as a man in the original game's manual. It's a known fact that while development was going on for the game, one of the developers suggested making Samus a woman instead of a man, an unheard of idea for video game characters back then. The movie Alien was supposedly a huge influence on the series, with co-director and co-character designer Yoshio Sakamoto and his staff all taking inspiration from all avenues of the movie franchise. With a strong female lead character at the helm, the game series soared to become one of Nintendo's biggest franchises. While the game series was less popular in Japan, North American and European sales continued to thrive, and throughout the series, we'd learn more and more about the bounty hunter known as Samus Aran.
But what do we know about Samus Aran? Really?
That I look damn good in a blue catsuit.
Wrong. Well, no, that's actually very true. But aside from the obvious, the rest of the world's interpretation of what Samus is supposed to be as a character strongly differs from what Japan received as a character. What kind of development are we missing? Well, we're going to talk about that in just a little bit.
Whatever, I'm awesome. And stuff. And cheese.
And cheese. And cheese indeed.
Metroid Other M continues the story of Samus Aran right after the events of Super Metroid for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Samus has defeated her nemesis Mother Brain with the help of the now very cute but very dead baby Metroid.
time to go.
Yes, I know what you're thinking. You're probably flashing back to the Metroid Revisited episode. No? Oh, well, let's have a look.
Here's another Metroid game. Alright, let's check out the story on this one.
The baby, and the baby, or the baby, of the baby, or the baby.
Back then, that's what I thought the game was about. Baby Metroids. And it even became a running joke for a while amongst people who hadn't played the game. But if you actually sit down and play the game beyond the first hour, most of the content that you're going to discover about the story is actually not related to the Baby Metroid. And the story actually gets pretty deep. We're going to try to tackle a lot of things that make up the game's complete package first, before getting to the problems with combat and discussion of story. First off, the animation on all the characters during in-game cutscenes and CG movies is excellent, and really shows off the Wii's graphical power. For such an underpowered system, it did a fine job of portraying Samus's world in the most gorgeous Metroid game yet. Speaking of gorgeous, yeah, okay, so developer Team Ninja was tasked with the creation of the game's engine and, of course, adding their flourish for gorgeous women into their video games. But I can't help but wonder why they all of a sudden decided to add a mole to Samus's face. It's like those celebrities that never had a weird birthmark or mole or anything like that, and then all of a sudden, boom, overnight they got one. It's strange to see it in a video game, though. Why change it at all? She never had it prior, so why include it now all of a sudden? When you listen to the music of Metroid Other M, it's quite the mixed bag. It has high energy moments with lots of drum and bass inspired breakbeat pizzazz that is a bit of an evolution of the slow, synthetic deep beats from the Metroid Prime trilogy, but at the same time, many tracks get back to the very soothing, minimal electronic sounds of the series' past iterations, creating lonely atmospheres where Samus can just run around aimlessly searching for power-ups while the player gets lost in the audible ambient space. If you're a fan of Aphex Twin's ambient works albums, you'll really dig a lot of that stuff. But there's still a lot of great remixes of classic tracks, as well as brand new songs that are sometimes forgettable but completely enjoyable. Anyways, let's start working on the story. Now remember, huge spoilers here, so you only have yourself to blame if you keep watching. So after an undisclosed amount of time after the Super Metroid storyline, Metroid Other M picks up with Samus recovering post-Mother Brain battle. She gets back into her gear shortly after the recovery, and this is where the training sequences begin. The meek science character tells Samus that they gave her suit a polish prior to her report back to the Galactic Federation. It's a pretty simple setup, but almost all new games have these in place of mashing buttons or reading the damn manual because who has time to read the manuals? After the training mission, Samus delivers her report that the Metroids are eradicated.
Thanks to me being awesome.
And everybody goes about their day. Sometime later, Samus is traveling through the galaxy and gets a distress signal coming from a ship. She ends up meeting up with some of her previous Galactic Federation cohorts, most of which are devoid of any sort of personality and are completely expendable. In fact, I had trouble keeping count of which one was which. Well, except for the sole black member of the team, Anthony.
That's racist.
In all honesty, though, he's totally the most likable and distinguishable of the officers. And even though he's meant to initially be comedic relief, he ends up being a really good friend for Samus in the long run. Adam Malkovich, who we first learned about in 2002's Metroid Fusion, was Samus's commanding officer in the Galactic Federation, and in Other M we learn that Samus left the Federation when Adam made a difficult decision to not save his brother Ian during a mission and instead rescued the civilians. We learn that because of this, there's a bit of bad blood between Adam and Samus, who have a strange father-daughter type of relationship. There's a surprising amount of emotion here, and the game makes the player revisit the recurring theme of second chances. If you had the chance again to save someone, would you? From the baby Metroid, to Anthony, to Adam's brother, Samus is constantly questioning throughout Other M whether her decisions were the right ones to make, and it really does a great job of portraying Samus as a multi-dimensional character, but more on that later. Let's talk about the gameplay. Metroid Other M has two different control schemes. The game mostly plays out in a 2.5-dimensional perspective, which actually works very well for the series. There were some moments that I just could not see certain items, but overall I was pleased with this simple control scheme. However, I feel that the developers over at Team Ninja wanted to also incorporate the first-person shooter perspective that the Metroid Prime trilogy created for the series. Here, however,
It is one of the biggest faults of this title. The transition between first and third perspective is not smooth, creating moments where Samus will be attacked all because you're trying to shoot missiles or charge shots. There's also a few scenes where Samus has to do some detective work to find clues about certain story moments, but these are brutally frustrating because the clues are so hard to find that you'll seriously be waving around the Wiimote for way too long. It's not even challenging, it's just pointless. Even when she finds the clues, you have to hold the Wiimote on the spot for a few seconds so it can scan it. I also noticed that Samus feels slippery when trying to go to specific switches or triggers, but that's just nitpicking. However, one thing that is unforgivable is the lack of health and missile power-ups to collect. To recharge missiles quickly, you have to hold the Wiimote up sideways instead of NES controller style to do so. You could do it at any time, but I still miss the idea of collecting missiles. This time around, you only collect one at a time when you get a missile power-up, which takes forever to accrue. Now, health recharging on the other hand is awful. You can't collect energy pellets, but you can collect energy tanks. Each save station refills your health back up in full, and you can also collect backup tanks that kick in when the main tanks are gone. However, once your energy drops down below 30 or so, you could try to recuperate by holding up the Wiimote again. The big problem here is that it takes way too long to do so. Now, there are some things that you can collect to allow you to speed up the process, but it's still incredibly slow, and you will get hit multiple times while trying to do this. There's almost a duck and cover feel to the game in a lot of ways when you're trying to refill your health. It's just really frustrating, and I wish that they kept it more traditional like most Metroid games, where you're just going around shooting enemies and they give up health. The action is exciting and has a flair for slick presentation as Samus not only shoots her way out of most situations, but she also has some killer combat moves and dodges that she puts to good use. She could jump on top of enemies for a charged shot kill, or whip or run around them with the greatest of ease. Samus has never been more nimble than in Metroid Other M, and it gives her a bit more diversity other than being just a shooting machine.
Yep, I've been getting my yoga on with Wii Fit Trainer. She really knows her stuff.
Stop that brain! Get out of the gutter!
There's also these over-the-shoulder moments which are half annoying and half tension building. I just don't see the point if I can't shoot anything. And why am I walking so slow? It feels like I'm being held back. I know there's no point to run 100% of the time, but these moments can slow down the pace that the game is trying to build up. Metroid has always relied on Samus to collect power-ups to become stronger. Over the years, it was more about discovery and less about story as to why she has to just keep collecting the same items over and over again. Part of this is due to system limitations. The series began to hit brick walls after Super Metroid. Retro Studios began implementing ways to make it so Samus starts off with everything but then loses all or most of her items. The elephant in the room this time around is that Samus now needs authorization from Adam Malkovich in order to turn on certain functionalities of her suit, such as power bombs, various different beam attacks, super missiles, and more. There's a lot of discrepancies with the authorization from Adam. For example, Samus is worried that Adam didn't authorize her staying, but nobody authorized missile usage on the first door. And later in the game, when Adam goes missing, Samus begins authorizing her own items, jokingly referencing him always saying "any objections, lady?" by her saying "any objections, Adam?" And towards the end of the game, she begins to make her own decisions because, well, it's the smart thing to do. This is a huge problem for a lot of people for whatever reason. Everyone hated that they had to be authorized to use their weapons, and I guess I can understand that if you're looking at it only in a single way. We live in an age of gaming where everyone almost starts off with either every weapon instantly, or that weapons are acquired over time but your warrior is always powerful no matter what the reason. For the story's sake, they do try to explain that things like power bombs are extremely powerful and can potentially destroy any human life that may be left on the ship. There seems to be a bit of lag regarding authorization as well. Some people took it as Adam letting Samus endanger herself and not giving her the opportunity to use her full arsenal. She runs through Sector 3 without protecting herself with the Variasuit upgrade until she reaches a certain point where Adam pops in and tells her to turn it on. She enables the plasma beam to take on Ridley thanks to Adam's command. There are some key moments that people take such great offense to, making it seem like Samus is being patronized for following a man's orders, putting herself in danger. Would it make any difference if that commanding officer was a woman? And he specifically says that because he is in command of the crew, if she is going to investigate with them, she is under his command. Those were his rules, she agreed to them by staying. Why is this so hard to come to terms with? Because she's Samus the Ice Queen bounty hunter? While I agree that some of these moments don't make a lot of sense, the overall idea of taking orders is not something Samus enjoys doing. Take Metroid Fusion, for example, where Samus literally says that she doesn't like taking orders and that this is the second time she's had to. So can we assume that Other M was the first time since her days with the Galactic Federation? One has to wonder if Sakamoto was working up to this game since Metroid Fusion. There's this ridiculous idea or notion that Samus Aran is some sort of ice queen who is only good for blasting away space pirates and taking down armies of bad guys without flinching. And this is where we get into an entirely different conversation about one of the most controversial scenes in the game, the fight with Ridley. In previous titles, Samus has fought Ridley several times, but developers had no way to show off things like her feelings during a fight. But why should her feelings matter? Well, the unfortunate part of Samus Aran's backstory is that it has never truly been fleshed out in the games. So those who aren't huge fans of the series and the character may only know her as this badass soldier chick. But in Japan, Metroid fans were given a deep look into her past thanks to a series of mangas that were published. These mangas show a different side to Samus and her history with Ridley, as he led the space pirates to destroy not only her colony, but her parents as well. The shock of her parents being murdered, leaving her with post-traumatic stress disorder, was re-triggered when she saw Ridley in Other M. There are no cutscenes in any of the earlier games when you fight Ridley, which can cause a bit of confusion for gamers who aren't familiar with her backstory. I believe that the developers should have added a crucial cutscene into Other M, portraying each of her previous fights with Ridley to showcase her fears, which could not be done previously due to either hardware limitations or a lack of a truly fleshed out character. This would have done wonders to help bridge the gap for everyone to learn more about our favorite space heroine. We learn that one of the doctors on the ship, Dr. Madeleine Bergman, is very much alive and is being hunted, very similar to the rest of the Galactic Federation officers, by one of their own. Yet Samus doesn't deliver the news to Adam right away. Adam goes missing and Samus goes to find him, which turns into a moment that really brings back the second chances ideal. Now, at this point, I'm going to try to avoid telling you the rest of the story because honestly, there's a lot more and we'd be here all day. But as a preview, I can tell you that Madeleine Bergman is not who she says she is. We learn what becomes of certain crew members of the Galactic Federation and how the Galactic Federation fits into all this. Sakamoto also brings the existence of Metroids back in an extremely clever way that, while is somewhat impractical, still works for the sci-fi video game franchise and continues to keep them at the core of the story. Final thoughts. As a Metroid fan, this game is not for everyone. Between the juggling of gameplay modes to the awful health and missile recharge system, how did I have fun playing this? Well, despite the story being much more emotionally complex this time around, it really engaged me to press on to find out more about Samus's latest journey. What I discovered was a story with heart and soul, and while there were definitely some questionable motives behind authorizing Samus to be able to use her weapons, it makes sense in the space military world Samus traverses. Despite fans lashing out at her scene where she breaks down during the Ridley fight, it gives a way to look into who Samus is, not just whose ass she could kick the hardest. All the ridiculous baby Metroid inside jokes aside, it's really refreshing to see Nintendo reach out and allow a mature story to develop out of a franchise that was known for being mature because of the skimpy clothes of its heroine, not the character's travels across the vast frontier of space.
Well, sounds like you learned a lot about me and my adventures.
I sure did. Say, any idea when your next game comes out? Samus? Hello? Hello? Oh, I'm gonna be waiting for a new Metroid game forever. Hey, I have cheese in the fridge. Uh-oh, the expiration date's almost up.
This cheese will explode if not ingested in 1 minute.
Over! Last cheese is in captivity. The fridge storage space is safe.